Hello, this is Janet Michael. In addition to hosting The Valley Today each weekday at noon on the River 95.3, I also produce podcasts, and I'm excited to introduce you to a new podcast series in partnership with Lord Fairfax Community College. Having provided higher education and career training for the past half-century, LFCC is tightly interwoven into the fabric of the Northern Shenandoah Valley and Piedmont regions. Join me every week for conversations with current and former students to hear their funny and inspiring stories as we learn about their journey to higher education, the role that LFCC has played, where they are now, and where they plan to go. We'll also talk to current and former professors about their experiences and best memories of LFCC over the past 50 years. Get every single episode as they're released on our website at theriver953.com under the podcast tab, or you can subscribe for free in Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, on Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you listen to podcasts. Just search for LFCC Stories. Hello, and welcome to The Valley Today. I am your host, Janet Michael. It is Tourism Tuesday. As you are listening to the show today, we, however, have pre-recorded our conversation in advance, not on the Zoom screen. We are actually in the studio pre-recording today because... I'm here, Scott Bradley, with you. Scott Bradley Hesson. I am talking to one of our own today, so that voice that you are hearing is probably familiar. Scott Bradley Hesson is here in the studio with me. He is a lifelong radio personality turned author, and we're going to talk about his book in a few minutes. But, Scott, I say lifelong radio personality.
Right.
You've been on the radio and in radio for as long as I can remember.
Right.
How long have you been doing this professionally?
45 years.
Oh, wow. So it really is.
Yeah. I started here at FTR at that time, back in 1974. December 14th was my first day on the air.
I had no idea that you were here for it. See, I had no idea that Gaz used to be here either until he informed me of that decision as well.
Right. And I worked here until 82 and went on to other radio stations in the Valley and have worked radio ever since.
So as a teenager, did you want, because back then it was a DJ. You were a DJ. Is that what you wanted to be when you grew up?
No, it was quite by accident that I got here. I was going to my other job at Skyline Caverns, and I looked up and I saw the tower, the top of the tower, and I thought I had a few extra minutes. I thought, what's a radio station look like? And I drove in, and I went down Tower Road here and drove into the parking lot, and the back door was wide open. And this was late August, and I said, well, how inviting is that? And I walked in, and not knowing that it was the employee entrance, and I walk in on the engineer's desk, and there's all kinds of gears and switches and dials and big tubes and stuff, and I thought, this is so cool, and I was playing with stuff, and I picked up the biggest tube I've ever seen. It's called the final tube. It's about as big as your head. And I picked it up, and I'm looking through it, and this little old man peered around the corner, and I'm looking at him through the tube, and he goes, can I help you? And it was Charles Britt, actually, one of the original owners. And I just put the tube down, and I got real flushed, and I thought, well, I'm... here to apply for a job. I'm here to apply for a job. And he goes, as what? And if I had said as a salesperson, he would have me working for the rest of my life for very little. But I said as a DJ, well, that made him mad because I thought, what else do you do at a radio station but be a DJ? I want to be a DJ. And he said, the guy who hires DJs isn't here till 5. Come back at 5. And I'm just stepping out of the door, like wiping my brow, going, I'm glad he didn't bust me for trespassing. And for some reason, I went back at 5. And
the rest is history.
Yeah.
And did you expect that you would be in it for this long?
No, not really. But it beats digging a ditch. I've dug ditches and worked radio in the same day, by the way, so I know how that is.
And some of those tasks are similar, though.
Yes, they are. Very.
They do get a little dirty sometimes
yes,
in both
I've
cases.
shoveled some quote-unquote dirt.
So what do you do here at the station?
I am the assistant news director, and I do Saturday mornings mostly. I have sat in for Alyssa a couple of times. I will be 2 weeks from, after Randy goes on vacation, I'll be sitting in for Randy. and then I'll work for Alyssa the week after Christmas.
Nice. So people get to hear you a whole lot more.
Yeah, I've done a couple of times, so...
So you mentioned that you stopped in here because you were on your way to your regular job at Skyline Caverns. Tell me about that job.
Best job I've ever had. It was a lot of fun. I learned a great deal, worked for one of the greatest guys I've ever worked for. His name is Carlos Wine, one of the most patient men I've ever met because he had to deal with us. And we were all like 15, 16 years old and just kids. And he was very patient with us and put up with all our crap. And as long as we did the job, we were good.
And what was your job? Were you like a tour guide?
I was a tour guide.
And basically just taking people through the caverns and explaining to them what it was they were seeing.
I love talking about caves. They're one of my favorite things. And I could go on for days if you let me. I can explain the Appalachian geode syncline theory and its relation to the formation of the caverns of the Shenandoah Valley. I can tell you what orthorhombic crystal is with a rhombohedral cleavage. Yeah, I love it.
Well, and it's interesting because I've had several of the cavern people on over the last couple of years since I've been doing the show. And I grew up with a mother who was claustrophobic.
Oh, I'm sorry to
hear
that.
So caverns were never anything that we would ever go and do as a family. Not that we really did family vacations anyway, but caverns would certainly not have been on that list. So I have never been in any of the caverns, even as an adult.
That's terrible because there are rooms in the caverns that are big enough to fit this building in.
Wow.
Easy. Yeah, there are rooms that are massive. And one of the largest chambers in the United States belongs to Carlsbad Cavern in New Mexico. And it is 13 acres of cave, massive chamber.
So you mentioned you worked there when you were a teenager. How long were you there?
From 1971 till 1992 when they let me go, and I worked on and off between radio and doing caves. I used to, for cigarettes and diapers money, I would take tours and gas money and whatever I needed.
It's pretty amazing what some of us will do for cigarettes and diaper money.
Yeah, you're not kidding. And I don't even have kids, so... But, I would, for gas and cigarettes, and I would take tours and get tips.
So what kind of training did they give you for that job? Did you have to kind of do your own research, or was there an initial tour guide who taught you the ropes, so to
speak?
Right.
We do what we call trailing. We would trail the tour guides that were experienced, and we would learn what they did, and we would copy what they did and expand on that as we read and learned. And it was interesting because whenever we were asked a question, we'd go to Carlos and said, listen, we'd BS our answer when we were down in the cave. I'm telling secrets now. I shouldn't be doing this. But we would BS our answer in the cave and come up with something. And then we'd go ask Carlos, hey, this person asked me this. What's the answer?
Should I have said? Yeah.
What's the real answer? And he would tell you. And he was a great guy, just a great individual.
And then did you have people who were regulars to the caverns that would come and then tell you stories about their experiences?
Absolutely. Actually, in Luray, there's a family, a couple of them, that will come down traditionally on Christmas Day. Because back in the 1870s, the only time the cave was open to the public was on Christmas Day. It was like a special trip. And families would gather and they'd go down through the cavern. And people have kept that tradition for years. And every Christmas Day, we would expect these families to come.
And it's interesting you say that because I've had a conversation with someone from Luray Caverns, and that's always one of their biggest tourist days of the year as well.
It is, yes, still. Because it used to be the only time they were open. They opened like once a month. And Christmas Day was one of the months or one of the days that they would stay open because there were a lot of people traveling and it gave them something to do.
That is way cool. Well, I know you have written a book called There Might Be Ghosts Inside Those Hills. Yes. When did the idea come to you to write this book?
Oh, actually, I've had the idea for the book for years. I started seeing things, and I don't know what else to call them other than ghosts. And I know a lot of people are saying, "Oh, ghosts don't exist." I don't know what they are, other than calling them ghosts, because I have seen and heard things, and I'm not alone. I'm not the only one who saw these things, and we heard these things, and it's like my friends and I will never forget when the cave told us good night. We were finishing our night, and we were getting ready to go, and we were shutting off the lights, and the cave said, "Good night, boys," in this loud, echoing voice, and we were like, what was that? And I ran up the hill. I was thinking somebody's up in the lobby and they're playing games with us. And I ran up the hill and the guys were following me, and we ran out and we looked in the parking lot, and there's no way they could have gotten out of there before we saw them. But we have no idea what it was or who it was or how it happened, but it clearly said, "Good night, boys." And it was like, wow.
And you came back to work the next day?
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure I wouldn't have.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me. I don't know why. I'm more curious than I am anything else. I kind of dig these experiences. I'd love to talk to them and see what they're experiencing. Who is this? What are you doing? One thing I didn't write about in the book, I was working at another cavern in Page County.
Yeah.
I wonder what that could be. But I was walking through the cave, and I kept hearing this loud banging on our old maintenance shed. And I hollered up, "Okay, who's doing that?" And I heard in a deep voice that filled the chamber, "Seymour." And I said, "Are you telling me to see more, or is your name Seymour?" "Seymour." And I said, "Okay, your name is Seymour." "Seymour." And I said, "From now on, I'm going to call you Seymour." And I walked through the cave. I used to work a lot at night when I was by myself because you can get a lot more done. And I'd walk through the cave, and I would holler out his name, Seymour, and I'd hear him bang on the shed.
Oh, my God. Now I've got goosebumps. I'm not even there, and I've got goosebumps.
Neat.
Let's take a quick break. When we come back, I want to talk about the book because it's based on stories and some things from your time at Skyline Caverns.
And other caves.
And I want to talk a little bit about how it came to be an actual book, because that's not an easy feat in and of itself either. So can we do that in the next segment?
Sure.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to continue our conversation with Scott Bradley Hesson. He is the author of There Might Be Ghosts Inside Those Hills. We're going to get more details about his book when we come back in just a couple of minutes.
Do you know anyone who is struggling with financial hardships because of coronavirus? Our new webinar called Coping with the Money Crunch can help. We'll talk about immediate options to consider, revising or creating a spending plan, and lots of community resources. Then we'll cover how to narrow your priorities, contact creditors, and avoid scams and risky loans. The webinar is free, and you can either join by phone or through Zoom on a smartphone, tablet, or computer. You can find out more by visiting the Northern Shenandoah Valley Financial Education Program on Facebook or calling Karen Poff at 540-635-4549. Let me show you how to make your own plan or help someone you care about get through the crisis. Call 635-4549 or visit at NSV Financial Education on Facebook today.
Welcome back to the Valley today. I am your host, Janet Michael. Happy Tuesday as you are listening to the show today. It is, of course, Tourism Tuesday, and we've got a twist on our tourism theme today. We are in the studio pre-recording our conversation with Scott Bradley Hesson. You will probably recognize his voice from years on the different radio stations, most recently on our very own radio station. He is the assistant news director here at the River 95.3 and Sports Radio 1450, and he is an author, a newly published author of a book called There Might Be Ghosts Inside Those Hills. And Scott, most of what you were talking about in the book are from your experiences working at local caverns. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yep.
And you just decided to put them all down on paper one day?
I thought they were neat stories. I thought other people might enjoy them, so I wrote a book.
And how does that happen? I mean, obviously you scribbled down a bunch of notes or you dictate them into your phone, but then how do you actually get it? Because this is a real live book.
Yes, it is. And it took years to write it and to get it to where I liked it, and years of proofreading from friends. What do you think? Is this a good book? Do you think this would be a good book? And most of them were like, yeah, I kind of dig that. So like-minded people, and so there you go, a book.
And did you get it published on the internet? I mean, how do you actually get it into the final book form?
I went with, you've seen the commercials and heard the commercials. Actually, we run some here on the stations. We will run the commercial for Page Publishing, and I saw the commercial for Christian Faith. That was the first one I saw. And I contacted them and I said, I've got this book. I know that you're Christian Faith Publishing. It's about ghost. Oh, we'll publish anything. It's like, we want money. You got an idea? I sent it off to them, and they edited it, and it took a while for them to get it right. I had to contact them several times. I was like, you guys aren't doing it the way I want it done. And they changed the tense of a lot of stuff. Like I said, in the book, one of the first things I say is that my mom tells me I see these things because I'm open to it. And I never really thought about it until I started seeing them. But anyway, they said that my mother always told me, and instead of saying my mother tells me, because my mother is very much alive, I love that woman, and she needs to, everybody needs to know that she still tells me these things. She didn't tell me, or she didn't told me, she tells me. So it's a matter of tense. I know that's
and it's funny too with grammar. I run into that sometimes when I'm writing up the descriptions on the podcast page, and the little SEO thing will tell me that if I do that, I have too many tenses in my description, and I'm like, I write like I talk.
Yes.
Was that difficult for you when you were writing?
Actually, a lot of people say to me that the book reads like I'm sitting on the back porch talking to them.
Now, do you have plans for an audiobook?
I never really.
See?
Haven't pushed it that far. Yeah, sure.
You could turn it into a series of podcasts.
Yeah, I could.
See?
There's an idea.
And you happen to know somebody who knows a little something about podcasts.
Yeah. It costs money to produce these things, these books, and podcasts are kind of free. So,
well, they are at first. They don't have to be.
Oh, well.
So speaking of money, you actually have a book signing that you're doing locally. Is it here in Front Royal? Tell me about the book signing.
I've already done one in Front Royal at Royal Oak Bookshop, and those people are great, and they have copies of the book available. I got in touch with, an old friend of ours, Charlie Fish.
Mm-hmm. From Murphy's Beverage.
Yeah. She reminded me that she knows the woman at Winchester Book Gallery.
Christine, one of my dear friends.
There you go. And I contacted Christine thanks to Charlie. And next thing I know, she's saying, would you like to have a book signing? And I'm like, sure. And we worked out a date, which is December 19th, and which is several Saturdays away, 2 Saturdays away, I think.
But still before Christmas, so people can pick up a copy and stick it in a stocking.
That's what I'm hoping. And so I'm going to take down a bunch of books, and we're going to sign them 2 to 4.
So when you did the book signing at Royal Oak, did people come by and say, oh, my gosh, I had heard things and saw things when I went through Skyline Caverns, too?
Yeah, I get that all the time. Not about the cavern necessarily, but I hear stories about people that have seen things and heard things in their house or in their town, and that's kind of the idea we're kicking around for the second book, which is other people's stories and what they've experienced and how it's happened. Now, I know a lot of people say I need to see a psychiatrist if I'm seeing these things. And it's like, whatever you think, but I'm not alone. And
well, you only have to watch the Discovery Channel on any given night for a couple hours to find all of these paranormal and ghost-type stories.
I hate that kind of stuff. I'm sorry, but whenever you go ghost hunting, it's not going to happen. They're smarter than that, because I've done several ghost trips, and we're going to go ghost hunting, Scott. Let's go. And it's like, sure. And we went down in the cavern. Absolutely nothing happened for hours at a time. We've gone to Cork Street Tavern in Winchester, which I saw a guy walk through a wall there. I was talking to a friend, Steve Gaines. He's another radio guy.
I remember Steve,
There you go. And we're sitting at the bar, and I see this guy come out of the side of the building, take a turn, and go right through the wall. And I said, Steve, did you see that? And he said, no, what? And I said, that guy just walked through that wall. And he said, you're drunk. And I said, yeah, but that guy just walked through that wall. And come to find out, there's another book called The Haunts of Winchester, or something like that. It's Winchester Ghost, I think. Anyway.
And they do ghost tours. It's included, Cork Street is included on the ghost tours. Yeah.
Exactly. J.P. Murphy does ghost tours, and that's a lot of fun. But they include this ghost that was seen at Cork Street Tavern, and he's been seen several times. In fact, he harasses the staff.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's kind of the same mindset my husband has about Bigfoot. You're never going to find him or hear him if you go out with the intent of doing
exactly,
so.
Yeah.
But at our cabin up in Fort Valley, he's got, I know, at least a dozen trail cameras all over the place. And he is just sure one day he's accidentally going to get an image of Bigfoot walking past one of his trail cameras.
I mean, I wish him luck. There are things out there that we don't know. And just the gentleman who wrote he was very... In the Winchester Star, the article appeared, and he was very negative about it and saying that Hesson needs to see a psychiatrist. And it's like, well, that may be true. I thought so before I wrote the book. But
it still doesn't change what you've seen.
It doesn't change what I've seen. And he said, ghosts do not appear, period. And it's like, well, I hope they know that. Or do they know that?
As somebody told them.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, no, there they are. And so... But the Civil War soldier was a neat thing to see. I mean, he was right there. He was dressed to the nines, and he came out of the darkness, and it was like, dude, how you doing?
So I bought the book from you, and then of course you asked me right before we sat down to record, what I thought of it, and I haven't yet read it because sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. I feel like sometimes it's better for me to have the conversation with you not knowing necessarily what I'm talking about. Is it full of just random stories from your times at the caverns?
Yes, mostly about the cavern. I've seen women from about the turn of the century, about 1900, dressed to the nines. They have their long gowns on, and I saw them up on the hill. And I said, ladies, stay right there. I'll be up there in just a moment. And I know they heard me because they pointed at me, and they watched me run across the floor, run across the room. And I turned the corner, and they were gone. I've heard voices of girls giggling in the cavern. One of my favorite stories, a very vivid dream that I had about the two girls that apparently are haunting the cavern or had gone down in years before it was open to the public. This was Skyline, and there are lots of openings and lots of ways to get in, and they took advantage of it. And you think back in those days, a nice clubhouse. I mean, it's always the same temperature. The rooms are massive. You got a place to play. You could play hide and go seek for years. And they were in the cavern, and I hear them giggle, and one of them says, "Get the ball." And I hear this all the time when I'm down inside. And one dream I had about them, I was turning the corner, and there they were. They were dressed about 1920s swimwear, and they were barefoot, and they had blonde hair, blue eyes. They had pigtails. One was a little bit shorter than the other, and their swimwear had polka dots on it, the blue polka dots with white, and on a white background. And I woke up from the dream and was like, wow. And then I went to talk to a friend of mine about the girls. I said, I had a dream about my girls, and she goes, let me tell you your dream. She described to me in detail exactly what I dreamt, what the girls were wearing, how they had their hair, where the ball went, and she described the pathway and had never been in the cave before.
Nuh-uh.
Yep. Hair up on the back of the neck.
That is craziness.
Yep, it was.
Now, do you still go back now and just walk through to say hi to your old friends?
Yep, as much as I can. Some caves won't let me in anymore, but Brooks Boland, a very good friend of mine who runs Skyline now, and he's very accommodating. I got to thank him. He let me do a book signing there a couple of weeks back, and yeah, I love going through the cavern. I do it as much as I can.
So we've got to wrap up. I want to make sure people know where they can go and get a copy of the book. So where can they pick up a copy?
Amazon has copies of it, and you can pick it up at Royal Oak Bookshop, and I'm hoping to leave some copies at Winchester Book Gallery and also at Skyline Caverns.
Fantastic. And I'll put the link to the Amazon on the podcast page. So if anybody's listening, they can just go to theriver953.com, and they'll be able to find it and buy it there.
All right. Awesome. I appreciate it.
I think this has been a very fun conversation. I think we should talk more before the next book comes out.
Okay, sure. Whenever you got time.
We are going to wrap up our conversation today with Scott Bradley Hesson. He has authored a new book called There Might Be Ghosts Inside Those Hills. It is about all kinds of cool ghost stories that happen inside mostly Skyline Caverns, but other caverns in our local area. We're going to, I'll put links again, like I said, to everything up on the podcast page. I will be back tomorrow. I will have a brand new episode of The Valley. today ready to go for you. We're going to be talking, I believe, about Christmas trees. We're talking to Valley View Farm over in Luray. So meet me back here tomorrow, and I will have that conversation ready to go for you just a few minutes after noon.